Hello, my name is Michael Miller, and I'm so excited to get to work with you all at UMass Boston to discuss parliamentary procedure. Now listen, I know it is not always the most exciting topic, but I'm going to tell you, if you learn the basics of parliamentary procedure, a number of things will happen. First of all, you'll likely get more done at your meetings. Secondly, you will actually be able to direct the actions of your group in a more formal way. And last, you will have a skill that will last you throughout your entire lifetime, because I promise you, you will see parliamentary procedure over and over again, not only in your work life, but in your community life, and also in any professional boards or groups you get involved with. So let's get to it. Let's talk about what parliamentary procedure is, right? First of all, it's a set of procedures that protect the rights of both the individual and the group in exercising free speech, free assembly, and the freedom to unite in organizations to get business accomplished. In other words, to get things done around our common purposes or aims, right? So it's a structure we use largely in meetings to help things happen in this regard. Now, why? Why should you really concern yourself and your group, small or large, with doing parliamentary procedure, right? Here's the reasons. First of all, it allows for only one subject to claim the group's attention at a time. In other words, it lets us focus fully on one issue, right? In other words, we only talk about the thing that's germane in the moment, right? And we'll talk about how that works in just a minute. Second, it allows every proposition, every item, every motion on the floor to full and free debate. In other words, everything gets vetted fully and is fully discussed to the membership's liking. Here's the next one, and the next one I love because it's the most empowering thing about parliamentary procedure. Every member in a discussion of a proposition or a motion has rights equal to every other. So if you are a member of the group, your opinions, your feelings, your thoughts can be shared as much as the most experienced member or an officer of the group. In other words, it entitles us to rights to discuss things. And that's a very empowering piece to what parliamentary procedure allows, and more, it's very democratic, right? And last, the will of the majority must be carried out, and that's what parliamentary procedure ensures, but equally, the rights of the minority are preserved. So in other words, when there's a discussion, even if everyone doesn't agree with you, you get to put your thoughts on the floor. And then when your motion or the proposition is voted on, when you vote against it, that is part of the record. So your voice, whether you're in the majority or the minority, is protected in parliamentary procedure. Now, let's get real about this. There are rules. There's a way it works. The way that you, as an officer or a member, can fully enact these things is by understanding how it works. And really, overall, the basic unit of conducting business in parliamentary procedure is making a motion, right? So motions are the way we give direction to what our organization does, right? And a member, any member, can make a motion. And people get nervous. I've gone to many meetings, all kinds of meetings where motions are made, and the members get nervous. The members are like, I motion to, I make a motion, right? The language is really simple. You only really need to remember 3 words, right? And I'm going to give you an example of it now. I move that. So let's do a quick example for the purposes of really getting into understanding motions, right? You're in your organization's meeting and you're talking about something about the way the university collects fees, for example, and you feel your organization is entitled to use those fees, but you don't know how to access them. You don't know where that money goes that the university collects. And there's a discussion going on, and you're listening, and people are saying, yeah, well, why can't we use that money? And where is that money that the university collects from us? Well, what you could do to give that discussion, right? So now there's an informal discussion, kind of complaining about the fees or wondering about where the fees are or worrying about what your access to those fees are. Very simply, during that discussion, you could say, you know what? I want our group to do something about this. And very simply, you or any other member, likely except for the president, person running the meeting, anyone else could make a motion that goes like this. I move that we create a subcommittee to explore how the university uses student fee money, right? It's simple as that. Now, when any member makes that motion, I move that we create a subcommittee to explore how the university uses student fee money, immediately the person running the meeting is going to say, is there a second on that? Meaning, does anybody back that up? And if at least one person says, I second that, which means they want to talk about this motion too, now the providing officer will say, discussion on this motion. And then this is when every member has a right to say what they think. Every member can support that, speak against it, clarify and ask each other questions through the chair of the meeting. And once the discussion is pretty much wrapped up, the person running the meeting, the president maybe in this case, will say, if there's no further discussion, let's move to a vote. All those in favor? So all but one member says, I'm in favor of this motion. Then anyone opposed? One person opposes. Any abstentions? None. The president will say the motion passes. And that means the officers of the group are now directed to create a subcommittee who will explore the issue. In this case, how the student fee money is used, right? That's how groups make motions, and then how the group is directed toward action. Now, there's some important things to remember about this. Now, first of all, motions and their vote are very important because as a public institution at University of Massachusetts, Boston, your motions are the official record, the official documentation of how the group was directed to spend money, use resources, or make decisions, right? So it's particularly important for you as an organization to be able to document both the motion, in other words, the way the group was directed to action, as well as the vote on it, because that's what kind of authorizes the organization to use resources, spend money, and make decisions in moving forward, right? So I want you to take that seriously. You should really have a motion, especially when you're directing the officers to use resources in the group. Now, last, and this is a tip to help, right? I'm going to recommend that you consider using motion cards at your organization, right? And you can do an electronic version of this if your group's meeting virtually, or you can do it in actual motion cards. Let me tell you what they are. What they are is sheets of paper or little index cards that are called motion cards. And on them, what would happen is before any of your members makes a motion, you would encourage them to write the motion down first before they make it. Let me tell you why this is helpful. First, it slows down the process of making motions. This is where we're not throwing, a poorly worded motion out there. It slows the process down so that the wording gets right. Secondly, it then serves as the official language, because the official wording of the motion is important. It needs to be exactly how it was made. And when the person has to write it down, they can then pass that motion to the person taking the minutes, perhaps the secretary of the organization. And then they can make sure that in the minutes of the meeting, there's an official and exact wording of how the motion was written. Often, organizations use motion cards to record the vote down, and then they save them in the secretary's files. It's further documentation of the decision making. But what's cool about that, it helps people get the wording right so that we don't have to attend to a lot of problems with the wording after the motion comes on the floor, right? So that's an introduction That's not so complicated, right? That's the basics of getting started with parliamentary procedure. The, the, the why, the what, and ways to use it. I'm going to give you my email address right now and my contact information. The best way to reach me is the very first email address, msmtrainsyou@mac.com. If you have questions or concerns regarding this, or you'd like me to forward you more information about anything discussed herein, I'm happy to send it to you. I'm a fan and a friend of UMass Boston. Finally, this is the first of a series of videos that we're going to invite you to watch that deals with using parliamentary procedure effectively. So please join us for all of them. But in the next one, we're going to talk about what happens when maybe you like the motion, but you need to fix it or change it. Join us for that. See you next time.